No.
So
now we're live.
all right.
Yeah. So now we're live. I don't know why it does that. I don't know why it keeps doing that. We definitely need a wider table.
It works.
It works. We definitely need a wider table. I think we need a wider table. Thank you for the coffee.
Yes, you're welcome.
So what have you been doing all day?
Working.
That was super descriptive. Thank you for that. Super helpful. Are you working on anything specific? You said that you had no meetings today, right?
I had 0 meetings today.
Your hair is all fluffy.
I told you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had 0 meetings today, which is the first time I think in probably a few months that I haven't had any meetings scheduled in one day.
Except for when we were in Alaska.
Well, yeah. I mean, on vacation. Well, I'm talking about a work day where I was actually working. I actually got to work other than when you were bothering me for the whole day.
Bothering is such a strong word.
Yes. Interrupting? Is that better?
No, that's not better.
Oh. I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of what we're here to talk about today.
Violating
right?
my workspace?
Oh, that is not good either. That is not nice.
Yeah.
You violate my workspace.
Only when you force me to come to it.
I mean, even when I'm working at home sometimes.
I don't bother you. Not when you're working.
Not when I'm working. But you bother me other times?
All the time, yeah.
Oh, goodness.
But business is business, right?
Well, I mean, that's why we're kind of here today, is to talk about maintaining a work-life balance. And work, in our case, is business. I mean, you are at the point now where you actually, you kind of get to clock out.
Yeah, but when you're managing projects, there's not really a clocking out, especially if you have folks that are India-based or not in the same time zone, because then when 9:00 p.m. rolls around my time,
it's 8 a.m. theirs.
It's 9:30 a.m. over there, yeah, in the morning. So
hey, what was
they're just
that?
starting their day.
Oh, there it is. Look, Valinda's here. So I told Valinda specifically that she had to tune in today because I had a surprise for her. Guess what I found? I mean, you have no idea, but she probably knows. I had a private session to do today for the first time. I have done an in-home private session. I actually went to somebody's house to help work on an embroidery machine. It was a lot of fun. We had a blast. I was helping Susie's mom with, Susie's mom is 81 years old, and she bought a new embroidery machine, and she just needed some help figuring out some stuff. So I was preparing all of my stuff to go out and take with me today, and I happened to be going through one of my Tudo cases, and I found something that does not belong to me. I mean, technically I bought it, but I bought it for Valinda. So we're talking today about work-life balance, right? So I took technically a personal trip up to see the Wonderground studio for a friend's birthday and their very first open sewing event. Shout out to Gabby, she's amazing. And during that personal trip, I happened to pick up some stuff for Valinda, and then, work happened and I promptly misplaced um, all of the stuff that I picked up. Yes, I found your hardware, Belinda. So I picked up a couple of things. I found the Dumbo zipper pulls. I mean, it's only been missing since February, so it's October.
Okay. I have no idea what you're talking about.
I found zipper pulls and a hardware magnet that I picked up at the Wonderground studio for Valinda that I was supposed to take to Florida with me when I went, or I was shipping you something, or something was going on, and yeah, no, I put it away really good. And today I found it, so I will be bringing that to Florida with me, assuming that I don't put it away too well again, and it's gonna make its way to your house eventually. So I found it, and it's gonna come. It's coming. I promise it's coming. I told you I would find it. That's my little story for today. I was very happy that I had no idea what I did with this hardware. And Melinda keeps kindly, very kindly reminding me that I have it, and if I have found it yet, and the answer has always been no. But now, V, you can ask me again, and I have a very different answer for you. That's what I get for combining personal and business trips. It ended up in the personal stuff. I thought it was with the business stuff because I had it all together. It was not. That, and that's just my brain.
How do you separate what's personal sewing related stuff
Ooh.
from business sewing related stuff?
That's a good question. I know the answer you want to hear.
Yeah, what is that?
That everything has a very specific place and allocation of what is personal and what is business.
Yes, that is the correct answer for the IRS.
In reality, most of the stuff within my office here is personal stuff. Like these machines, these are my personal machines. These are what I have. It's been my daily use since I've had them. As far as like materials and stuff, you mean?
Yeah,
I
let's say that.
I have a stash that is very specifically personal, and I have a selection of personal that I don't mind using for business, and then I have a very large selection of this is business stuff. Does that make sense?
No,
No.
that's fine though. I think that's the problem, is it always ends up getting mixed together. Not only your stuff, but your time, your space.
Yeah.
I mean, that was true with me too, because I've worked from home since 2009, right?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's difficult because you have to find a way to segregate your time and your space where you do your work from, your personal life, your family and everything like that, because otherwise when your office is your home, then you can kind of lose track of when you should be stopping what you're doing.
Well, so I was thinking about that. That was one of the main reasons that we moved all of my office stuff outside of the house, right? That was the intention of getting my office space at the time, was I was running my boutique and I was making a lot of stuff and I was spilling over from, originally, oh my gosh, I have pictures. I will have to share pictures. I started in the dining room, and then I spilled over into the kitchen a little bit because I had toddlers that needed my attention. And so if I could have things up on the counter, it was helpful. And then I ended up taking over the kitchen counter, the small dining room, and the adjacent living room. And we cleared that whole space out. Do you remember that?
That you took over all the space
I
downstairs?
basically took over the entire downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I actually have a picture. I ran into it the other day. I have a picture from the top of the stairs looking down, and you can see the whole setup. I had bookshelves with all of the bolts of fabric in it, and then my two desks with my sewing machines, and that was my space to, and then the dining room was kind of like my cutting area, whatnot. So when we moved to Oceanside, the intention was to get a house big enough that I could be confined to a bedroom. And that worked for a while. And then I took over the loft, and then it just kind of spilled into a lot of things. So we decided it would be best for me to move all of my stuff out of the house. I still have a garage at home where I keep a lot of like back storage stuff, which I need to go through, I'm aware. But being able to have, or giving us the intention of moving to a separated work and home space, which I think I still think was very important, even then, especially then. Now it's hard. I mean, to a point, it's hard because sewing isn't just my business, right? Sewing is my hobby, and it's hard to be able to do my hobby stuff. We were kind of talking about this last week. It's hard to have my hobby because I can't do it at home because I don't have the stuff to do it at home anymore. Everything is here. Everything is here in my office, in the classrooms. And it makes it very hard to be able to go back and forth between work and hobby, even though it's a very fine line between the two. What do you think? I mean, it's easier for you to separate.
Well, I don't have the problem of having to have a bunch of stuff because I have a laptop and a screen, and that's about all I need.
It is a very large screen.
Your screen's bigger.
It's still smaller than my screen.
But anyway, yeah, I need a desk. I don't even need a desk. I can use a laptop, and I have a portable monitor, so I can literally work anywhere, which is a double-edged sword, right? As you remember, back, before I worked at Deloitte, going to Disneyland and bringing my laptop in case I needed to respond to a support incident or something like that. Yeah. And I mean, on the one hand, I can go to Disneyland on a Thursday.
Yeah, but sometimes you would end up getting into something that would end up taking all day long, and then it was pointless to go. I mean, kind of.
Yeah.
Right?
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I think that's the biggest problem that small business has. Like, I don't know if I would encompass all small business, but kind of. There's a huge difference between customer support between big box stores and small business, right?
Yeah. I feel
we feel differently on this, don't we?
Yeah, I think the expectation most people will have is that if you're a small individual craft business, that they're not expecting you to respond over the weekend. They're not expecting you to respond when it's 9:00 at night. But for a larger business, especially if it's like something tech or IT or like a service, that no, you better respond to me, you better send me a follow-up email and all this stuff because it's a larger business. That's, I think, the expectation. At least that's my expectation. Like I don't
think you're the norm though.
Yeah.
No, and I see this in our Etsy groups a lot, right? Um, well, we had this conversation earlier this week when we were trying to just figure out what all we were going to talk about was, especially with the mindset of finding something on Etsy per se. I think that you're correct to a point, but I differ in that I think people in general, a random customer, right? A random customer expects a singly owned craft based, like anything you find on Etsy, right? A customer looking for something on Etsy, for example, will go in and send a message and they expect a prompt response, right? They expect an answer right away because, well, that's just that's just a single person and it's the only one running it. And so they should be able to answer me, right away. And if not, I'm going to go and find it somewhere else. Whereas if they were to send a message to, I don't know, think Walmart, right? Nobody expects to actually get a person at Walmart or on Walmart.com. You expect a bot, and you huff and puff, but it is what it is, and you just deal with it. I think that the people who look at a small business and don't expect the weekend or the late night responses, that really only applies to people that know each other, customers and owners that know each other on a more personal basis. Customers that become friends, customers that have a relationship, a built relationship with a business, is the ones that are like, oh my gosh, I know you have your family time, respond whenever you can, versus oh, well, it's Friday night and they're probably not going to be working again until Monday. I just don't see that. More often than not, I see the that want for a very quick response.
I think that, yeah, there's some people that, especially depending on what your line of business is,
Yeah.
they're very impulsive, right? And
Yes.
I think what you're doing is projecting that you're kind of afraid that they're going to say, oh, I didn't get a response in, 5 minutes. I'm going to go somewhere else.
Oh, absolutely. Right? Absolutely.
And that may be true, for some people. They may just be like, okay, whatever. But I think you can't live your life being at the beck and call of a potential prospect. You have to look at what is the potential upside versus what's the impact it's having
Absolutely.
On my personal life, right? Because if you're sitting there and it's, Friday night or we're at a concert or something like that, and you get a message for, hey, do you have this in a medium or whatever? Do I really need to answer them right now because I could potentially lose a $60 order or whatever? Or should I just turn my phone off, while I'm at the concert, and whatever comes in, I can either answer after or the next day in the morning.
Right.
And I found what I used to do was business to business, so it was a little different. But
see, business to business, those are recognized as, these hours are non-responsive though.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, if you're talking about technical support, they're expecting something.
I think the majority of shoppers have gotten too used to the Amazon style of sales, where it's that constant instant gratification, and so a lot of small businesses, I mean, I know I suffer from this myself. It is very much that, oh my gosh, if I don't answer this, they could find something else.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are other Etsy shops, there are other small businesses. I'm not the only one that does what I do. I mean, with the classes, it's less now, I think, but it is a very innate feeling that you have to have that quick response time, and you have to get out of that mindset, because honestly it's not healthy. It takes a toll on you as a business owner. You know what, I think too that the that mindset changes when you hit the point where you can say no to an order.
Yeah.
I think it does. I remember the first time that I got so, and this might sound wrong, but I got so excited to be able to say, somebody asked a question and I was able to say, you know what, we really don't do that. And that was internally, that was powerful, because for the first time ever, I didn't have to take an order just because I needed the order.
Yeah, I think it's hard because especially when you're first starting your business, you feel like I need to capitalize on every single potential prospect out there. Every lead that comes in, I have to get,
Yeah.
right? And
Do you remember the undershirts?
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
I do.
I wonder what he's doing now. That was
But-
way beyond.
Yeah, and that I think a lot of people that start out in small business, especially in craft things like this, they fall victim to that, and then a lot of the times the reason they started doing it was because they wanted to be their own boss, let's say, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, I'm gonna own my own business. That way
I
I'm my
can
own
work
boss.
when I want to.
But yeah, the flip side of that coin is that you do have bosses. Your boss is every single customer and every single prospect.
Yes.
If you let them be the boss of you. So you have to decide, where do you want to draw the line?
Okay,
Right?
but okay, so to that, so I think that heavily depends on what your business is too,
Mhm.
because so everybody, you know, I heard a lot when I first started the classes specifically. Oh my gosh, that's so great! You get to set your own hours and, you know, work when you want to. And at one point, I was kind of like, no, not really, because I am chained by the desires of when my students want classes or when they can take classes. Am I going to only work in the morning? No, because most kids are in school in the morning. Am I going to do a lot in the morning? Because, you know, a lot of adults who want to learn are still working. They're not retired. They don't have endless amount of time during the week. And then you have also after school sports. And so that means that we've got to consider Saturdays and Sundays sometimes for weekend classes. When can people get away? There's so much that dictates the actual schedule that I get to finagle around. But I mean, the best thing that I did for my own sanity, I am not a morning person. And so when I started teaching, I set my classes to start at noon. And that way I had time to get up and get around and let my brain just naturally wake up instead of forcing myself to wake up and do all of those things. So as far as the freedom to decide when I wanted to work, yes and no. Yes, because I get to decide when I'm going to have a class. But in reality, I am still chained by what my students are able to do. Weekends during the day, over holidays, breaks and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, our studios are closed the week of Thanksgiving. That's time to spend with our families. I'm very lucky that we get to dictate. Is that the right? Help me out with one of them college words.
I don't know what you're saying.
I get to decide when we're open and closed, and
It's your prerogative.
it's my prerogative that I ultimately I get to decide when the classes are. But that doesn't mean that I get
To a point.
to work when I want, because
If you decide that you only want to hold classes at 10 p.m. at night on Sundays, then your business is not going to succeed.
right, that's what I
So,
mean.
There's a balance there that
Yeah.
you always have to find. How much am I willing to sacrifice to be at the beck and call of my clients, my customers,
Right.
and how much am I willing to sacrifice a sale or sacrifice, certain amount of success,
Yeah.
because I have more important things to do with my life than,
Right.
worry about answering a call on Saturday evening,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think we have been very lucky in the sense that, up until you started working for Deloitte, you eventually took over the company that you were working for most of our kids' young lives. You've been at Deloitte now for what, 2 years?
2.5. Yeah.
2.5 years. So entirely prior to that, basically since we met,
Mm-hmm.
you have been able to work at home. You've been able to kind of manage your schedule. We've been able to be very flexible with your schedule as far as when you needed to work versus when you got to spend time with the family. So how did you decide, aside from me bugging you to go and do something, that doesn't count, how did you decide or make sure that you had enough time for either?
It's an impossible decision. And especially when you're dealing with longer term strategic type goals at your business, right? And those are the things that everyone ends up putting off and not doing because they're always fighting those tactical fires that are right in front of them.
Yeah.
But there's things that you have to invest in, right? For instance, doing a podcast, right? Or doing a video vlog or whatever.
But look, you're here.
This isn't for me. But so there's things like that where it doesn't have to be done today. It doesn't have to be done even next week or next month. But in order for the business to really succeed, these things need to be done, eventually. Right. And so you're faced with this scenario where, okay, do I put in an extra 2 hours towards that strategic long-term goal, or do I spend that 2 hours sitting on the couch and, just Netflix and chill? Right? Well, if you always say, no, I'm going to put in towards that strategic goal, then where does your marriage go? Right? Or where does your relationship with your children go? Right? So it's hard. And there's been times where I tried to do both, where I'm sitting on the couch with my laptop trying to work and, still watching a movie or something. And it becomes very difficult, right, to try and balance. So you have to just make a decision. And one of the important things to do too, this is just more from a strategy side with your business, is make sure that you make time for those strategic things almost every day. I would say try and schedule some time to work on those longer term goals, because otherwise they're not going to get done. And almost, I would say, try and do them first.
He has a reminder in his calendar. It's every Monday, right? Every Monday to schedule a date with me.
Yeah, and I feel like every week you've preempted me by deciding, hey, we're going to do this on Wednesday, or hey, we're going to do this. So it almost doesn't matter at this point, but
you could plan something.
Let me. But yeah, you have to make time for those longer term things.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're not going to do it. They're going to get put off and put off.
Yeah.
You know how that is.
I know how that is. I am a professional procrastinator. I want to go back. Lillian asked a question. She said, at what point in your business teaching classes were you able to set class days and times? Was it a year after teaching, 2 years? So specifically to that question, um, originally I did things very different. When I when I very first started teaching, I actually didn't have any kind of curriculum. I just set a class time. It was, I think when I started, I only did one day a week where it was more like open sewing than it was actual classes. People came in, they scheduled to come in, and we were doing all of the I was doing all of the scheduling by hand in an Excel sheet. No, I think I started in Google Calendar. That was horrible. Then I moved to an Excel sheet, which was manageable. But then we got to a point where it was a lot, and we had about 250 students, and I needed to update because it was insane. So, in deciding, I want to say it took the first season. I think I started classes in January of 2018 under So OSIDE. And prior to that, I was only doing workshops specific, like here's our project, we're going to make this on these days, and that was it. I had done a few before that, but I actually started the regular classes in January of 2018 under So OSIDE. And I want to say we only started with one day a week, and people came in and just, okay, hey, what do you want to learn? And let me share my knowledge with you. And as we kind of got a few months into it, I still have some students that have been taking classes for, that many years. It's been that long, that never ended up going through the curriculum that I have now, just because it took me about a year to come up with the curriculum itself. And I want to say after that first season is when I started doing, every Tuesday I had openings, and then we moved to 2 days a week because, one day a week wasn't enough. And then, we had to add Saturdays because there were a lot of people that couldn't come during the week. So the class days will fluctuate. I've been doing this long enough now. The class dates will fluctuate between usually somewhere between Tuesdays and Thursdays. Generally in Oceanside, we have 2 days a week that have set times. And when we're really busy, we up to 3 days a week. Now that'll change depending on, kids have sport seasons. Well, every practices are on Tuesdays. Well, that means that they can't come to sewing classes on Tuesdays anymore because they have this sport that they're doing. So it'll flip flop between the days that we're doing, but I want to say we had a pretty set and even schedule. Maybe 6 months in, once we started getting, a good influx of new students and people scheduling on a regular basis. When I first started, it was very, hey, when do you want to come in? More of like an appointment basis. Like, oh, well, hey, I have these, 2 people that want to do 4:00 on Thursday, so let's fill up my spaces at that point. From there, it grew.
So very organic.
It was very organic at the very beginning, and then by the time, so that was 2018. By the time January of 2020, so just before COVID, I was at a point where I was teaching myself. I was teaching up to 16 people in a single class on a regular basis, and all of our classes at the time were, everybody is coming in working on their individual project at their individual pace, in a group setting. So I could literally have 16 different people in a room working on 16 different projects. That's where my ADHD comes in very handy, because I was able to follow along with, everybody in the room. It took me a long time to figure out that that's not normal, and most people can't do that, and that's okay. So now all of our classes are capped at 8 because I have other instructors that handle most of our regular in-person classes, and then I handle all of the traveling, the online, it's a lot. I want to say right now we have a roster of about 1,000 students between both locations and active workshops. I think we're at I was looking at it. I was looking at it yesterday, day before, and it was just under 1,100. Some of those are still active from Sin City, so we have to clear those out. But for the most part, we have a roster of about 1,000 students. It's crazy. I've been doing this a little while.
When did you decide to start hiring employees to help teach?
I
Or
so
why, I guess.
So actually, my first employee was not an instructor. My first employee was someone to help answer phones, be in the retail store. I used to have a retail store. We were only in Oceanside at that point. The first person that I hired was one of my friends one of the girls who became a friend. She was working at Starbucks, and I hired her to come in and basically reception style, right? And that way, as I was teaching classes, she could handle the phones, the emails, and anybody walking in. And so I didn't have to pull myself away from the actual class part to be able to answer questions or cut fabric or whatnot. So as far as my first instructor, it actually kind of happened by accident. I ran into Meg, who is my Oceanside lead instructor, at it was the Vista Vintage Market, little farmer's market. And I had known her from a fabric warehouse. She was a warehouse manager previous to that. She hadn't been working for about, I think she took 6 months to a year off in between that and me running into her. And I just asked her if she'd ever thought about teaching before, and she kind of hadn't. And I said I'd be happy to teach her how to teach. And that was, 3.5 years ago now? I don't know. It wasn't necessarily anything that I wasn't necessarily looking for it at the time. I think I had considered it, which is probably why I brought it up, but I'm so glad that I did it when I did it, because I think part of it was I was having a hard time doing the very repetitive teaching. So that's my ADHD. Just doing that over and over and over again, my brain was getting bored. I wanted to focus more on the advanced stuff and being able to run the website and all the social medias and everything. And I needed somebody to be able to handle the basic classes. So that's kind of why I brought Megan. And now she does all of our beginner and advanced classes. Ash does some beginner classes here in Oceanside, and I was able to kind of step back. I remember the first time I told her basically sink or swim. Her first trial by herself, she started for me, I think it was in November. So I think we might be coming up on 4 years. I think it was in November, and by that January, I trained her for about 2 months, and that January we had a winter camp in the classroom, and I was like, okay, so I'm going to my grandfather's house for, I think it was Christmas. It was that first week of Christmas, and said, call me if you need me. And just kind of let her sink or swim and see what happened. And obviously she still works for me. It's great. Everything is fine. But I remember while I was gone getting a call from my front of house, and she was like, oh my God, it is so chaotic. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, it was chaotic when I first started by myself too. She'll get the hang of it. Just let her figure out where she sits in all of it. And afterwards we kind of went over and said, okay, well, what worked, what didn't work, what do you think, how do you feel, and kind of figured out where to go from there. I think it was great timing. even though it wasn't completely intentional, it was great timing to bring in another instructor. And since then I had one that was a temporary instructor in San Diego. And now Amy is my lead instructor in San Diego, and I think both locations are doing great with our instructors so far.
Yeah.
So far.
Oh, I think that's important though,
Yeah.
when you're talking about work-life balance though, because at a certain point, you need to decide when you don't have enough hours in the day to do everything on your
Oh
own.
yeah.
And find what it is that other people can do to take the burden off your shoulder.
Oh yeah.
And focus on the things that you do best that help make your business unique.
Yeah.
Right? And also, it allows for you to be able to take a family vacation, let's say, and actually
Right.
leave and have someone else hold down the fort. So,
Right.
but it's hard because when you hire employees, you have a lot of additional overhead as far as financially, but
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to manage it. You have to worry about
Yeah.
the legal aspects, all that stuff too.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
a big
yeah.
jump to make.
And then you made me take over my own QuickBooks this year. Was it this year or last year? It was last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year he made me take over my own QuickBooks, so then I had to do all of my own bookkeeping too.
Which you can hire someone to do.
Yeah, but I need to learn how to do it. I mean, I've gotten really good at it now, but being thrown into it was rough.
Yeah.
It was like you threw me in the deep end of the pool.
I tried to teach you.
Yeah. So that's another thing. We have figured out over the course of almost
15 years of
yeah,
marriage.
15 years, almost 15 years. There are certain things that we don't do together, which can be very hard just in and by itself. But yeah, teaching me QuickBooks was not the place for you to be. It was
Teaching you to do anything
You know what?
or instructing you, it just, yeah, that
I am
doesn't
an
work.
excellent student
As long as I'm not teaching
as
you.
long as you're not teaching me.
Yeah.
You know what? I let you teach me to surf. Mostly.
Yeah, you did pretty good with that.
I did pretty good.
Initially, we tried to work out together at the gym.
Oh no, we don't do
And-
that.
Yeah. No.
We don't do that. Listen, I need to be able to be upset at my physical trainer. I don't need to go home with the person that I am upset at. I don't need you to be my personal trainer because I need to be able to I don't necessarily want to say be upset at, but my personal trainer is going to make me do a lot of things that I don't necessarily want to do. You're going to push me, you're going to irritate me, but that is your job in that moment. I don't want to go home with my personal trainer. I want to be able to go home and complain to you about my personal trainer. No offense to my personal trainers. You guys are wonderful, and I have absolutely loved working with each one of you. Seriously. But it's a very different aspect, and I just didn't need you to fill that role. I think it's important not just in work and balance, but even just in life. Well, I said work and balance. Work and life balance. Even just finding those things within any aspects, like knowing where your boundaries are and sticking to them. That one I know is a hard boundary for me. I can't have you be that person. You can't fill that spot. You can't tell me what to do.
No one can tell you what to do.
I have a problem with authority. Oh, yeah. No, it is a problem. But there are other things that we truly enjoy. Like we like to. There are a lot of things that we have a difference of opinion on, and I feel that we have a very good balance of being able to talk through those things and have an intelligent discussion without like tearing each other down.
Mm-hmm. I think we have a lot of differences, but I think that everyone does. Every
Yeah,
couple, everyone. If you're the same,
that's
why,
boring.
yeah. Why are you even like? You need someone that compliments you, but
Compliment, yes.
I think it's the same thing though. Like when you're talking about work-life balance, the things that I need to do to de-stress or decouple from work are going to be different from what you need to do
Oh,
too.
we're very different.
Well, because I sit at a computer all day. When I'm done with that, I want to go surfing. I want to go to the gym. I want to go for a run. I want to do something physical, get out of the house at least.
Nobody likes running.
I don't like running either.
Yes, you do.
It hurts.
Nobody that doesn't like running intentionally runs more than a mile, let alone the 6 or so that you do.
Like pain.
Yeah, you like running. Just admit it. You like running. You like putting that amount of pressure. You know,
I like the way that it resets and it makes you feel refreshed and it kind of resets your mindset.
I like doing that in my mind, not on my feet.
Yeah.
I like challenging my mind to be able to do stuff like that. So a lot of what I do on a regular basis is I'm moving. I'm moving a lot because I'm working in one spot doing a lot of physical, like cutting stuff out, especially when I'm kit prepping for big events. I'm on a constant on my feet, moving and grooving, versus sitting down and playing like an intellectual game, something that I have to think about, some kind of strategy.
Yeah.
Or just being able to mentally check out. That is a good break for me. I like to mentally check out. I like stupid games on my phone. I will find one stupid game. Actually, he was making fun of me a couple of days ago. Because there's you play games on your phone and they have ads. Well, now they've started doing playable ads. So instead of downloading the game, I will just sit and play in the ad until it won't let me play anymore, and then it goes back to my regular game. Well, I finally broke down and I downloaded the game that I was playing in the playable ad because I got tired of getting kicked out of it. So
that's how they get you.
I know, but I will find one or two games and play it until my brain hates it, and then I will delete it and find something else. But I love those. I call them mindless games. They're really not, but it keeps my brain busy and takes everything off of it's different. I assume that me playing my games is the same as you going out for a run or going out to surf. It gives me that kind of mental break. We are very different.
Well, I think the thing is that my work involves thinking, strategy, like constantly just mental exercise.
I think.
Right? Yeah. But
especially when I'm writing patterns. That's hard.
I think your break, yeah, it's more games, movies,
yes,
scrolling, all of that stuff.
Scrolling.
Yes. Which I can't stand. I'd rather be out doing something. Which is another thing that we talk about balance. You have, the way I see it is you have your work time, you have your lifetime, which is all in the numerator of your time, and the denominator is your total amount of hours in the day or the week or whatever.
Yeah.
When I look at how much time people spend on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, just scrolling through short videos, I don't know.
Your son is a really good example of that.
People will spend hours a day sometimes.
Do you remember catching Michael on TikTok? You remember going through and so we it wasn't catching him, okay? So we were trying to figure out, like, I gotta notice something on my phone that one of our lines was out of data. We're like, how are we out of data? Literally, the bill cycled like 3 days ago. Finally went through, did some digging, looked at each line specifically, and one line had gone completely. It was Michael's. And so we were trying to figure out, okay, well, I was like, cool, let me see your phone. And there's app trackers, so you can see the time that you're spending in each app on your phone, right? And we opened it up, and he had spent like 6 hours that day just on TikTok, and we're like, dude, do you see this? Like, literally, you were in school all day. How? And so I looked at the data, because you can actually see on the phone lines what times your data's coming through, and I'm looking at it, and I added up all of the times and whatnot, and I was like, dude, you woke up and you started on TikTok, you went to school, and there's this 7 hour break, whatever, while you were in school. I was like, and then literally right after school, you're on TikTok again. I was like, we've been out together all day long. We've been running errands and stuff, but it's like, you literally have not been on your phone for a total of 30 minutes after school. And he goes, oh, whoa. What was it he said something about how, he didn't realize that he spent that much time. Now he was what, 8 at the time, 9 maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
And he goes, I was like, well, I mean, so we can set a limit, a daily limit, so that you can you hit that limit and it has to close. You get the notification on your phone so that you can see the time that you're using. And he goes, no, just delete it. I don't need to be on that. I don't need to be addicted to that.
Exactly. Yeah, I think everyone, they have to set their own kind of personal limits on that, because I know it can help, just be like a decompress tool. Like you like to just do it for whatever, but
oh yeah,
you have to look at how many hopefully it's minutes, but if it's not, how many hours are you spending on that on average? And
I would look, but my phone is on YouTube right now.
Yeah. But if you're struggling to find the time to do what you need to do for your business,
yeah,
and then at the same time struggling to find time to, if you want to do exercise, if you want to, your kids' activities, if you have kids, and you're, spending time with your spouse or your girlfriend or whatever. At
you
the
have
end,
a girlfriend?
But at the end of the day, you have to say, okay, well, I'm spending 2 hours on Instagram or TikTok. How much more could I do with that time that would be better suited, and maybe limit it, to 10, 15 minutes after I get done with, work.
Well, you could say the same thing though with anything though, really, is, you spend 2 hours, you've spent much more than 2 hours out surfing, and I totally get that. But again, there are only a certain number of hours in the day.
Absolutely.
You spent a lot of time this summer surfing.
Because you were gone.
I was gone. I took the kids to Orlando for 2 weeks by myself. My children plus my 2 nieces. It was a fantastic trip, and it allowed you to be able to go.
Yeah.
You literally went surfing every day.
Pretty much, yeah, and that was a conscious decision.
Except when you got stung by a stingray.
Yeah.
You needed a break.
I needed a couple days. I needed a day.
I needed a day.
But that was a conscious decision, because
Right.
I want to improve my skills in that.
Right.
Plus, I mean, it's a physical activity that helps me get over the stresses that I have during work too.
Are you ever worried about burnout with surfing?
Burning out as far as like mentally?
Yeah.
Getting tired of doing it?
Yeah, like getting bored with it. Like you're doing it so often for so long that I know.
No, I don't.
You don't think so?
No, because it's one of those things that you kind of continually progress at, and every time you go out, it's something different. There's different. I haven't found 2 days where I've gone out and I could say the waves were the same.
I know, I get that. I get that. I guess I ask more so because, for things not like that specifically. Like, I know I see it in our Facebook groups all the time. Like, hey, I'm in a rut. I don't know how to pull myself out of, what do they call it? A funk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a funk. I've lost my sojo, right? These are people who sewing is purely hobby,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay.
I've lost my sojo. How do I get out of it, right? So how do you maintain your hobby without getting burnt out? I don't know why I asked you about your sojo, but I guess because I keep staring at the bag that you made yesterday.
I would say try something different, something completely brand new that you haven't done before. If you're getting tired of, if you're getting bored doing the same thing.
I don't think it's necessarily bored. I think there's a difference between bored and burnt out.
Yeah.
So like yesterday, even helping with this one, my hands just were so done by the time that we were done with it, and I know that it was because we were doing quite a few things, but it makes me, on one hand, it makes me want to just walk away and be done and everything, but on the other hand, it's also very exciting to go, okay, well, what else can we do? But there comes a point where it's just like, no matter what you do, no matter how much you make your favorite thing, there's a point where I feel like, you know what, I'm just done. So how would you pull yourself back up into it? Does that really just mean that you need a break? You have to walk away for a while?
I think so. And if it's your hobby, if it's not your business, then what's the problem? Walk away from it. Try.
Okay, so
different.
there's another question there. How do you differentiate between the hobby and the business? Because a lot of craft-based businesses, we were kind of talking about this last week, a lot of craft-based businesses, it's turning your hobby into a business. So how do you draw that line between what you're doing for your hobby, or it's okay that I'm working on this because it's what I really enjoy doing, versus having to continue doing it because you have to get the orders out? I remember
that's what's so dangerous about it.
Do you remember those pink hats?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We
made
pussycat ears.
Yeah. We made 152 in like 6
many?
hours. Yeah, it was ridiculous. Well, yeah, because there was
for that protest in Washington or whatever.
Yeah, and all of a sudden everybody wanted to have them, and I was leaving for something. I don't even remember what I was leaving for, but I was leaving for an event or something, and literally I had a friend come over, and Neil came into my car. This was all while I was in the craft room at home still. We had to team up and cut out 150 something, and I had to make them overnight to be able to ship them all out. Like, and by the time I was done with that, I was just like, I never want to sew anything ever again. Obviously, I was able to get over that because here I am. But still, I mean, does it really just take sometimes, I assume, a break? And how do you handle that if that's also your business and you can't take a break?
Well, sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do, right? And then it becomes more work than passion. But and that's kind of the dangerous side of turning your hobby or your passion into a job, is that now it's not something that you want to do, but it's also something you have to do. And so depending on your personality, that can be kind of a turn off, right? It's like, now I have to sew, right?
Okay.
So I would say, I don't know, maybe try and find time to purposefully do things that you see online or whatever that you want to do, like a new pattern or something. and take the time to do that, even if it's not intentionally for an order or to sell later, like just because you want to do it.
I think that, so I have an answer also, but I think it's important exactly what that is. And I just want to point out there is a, Lillian says maybe set business hours. You know, I've tried that. Personally, it doesn't quite work for me that way. But to what Neil was saying, taking time to do something different. So I know that, you know, what was it, a couple months ago? It was during the last, not the last cyber meetup, but the one before that. So like 6 months ago, because they're every 3 months, right? Or, yeah, they're every quarter.
Like
so somewhere between 4 and 6 months ago. So this was probably either, what was 6 months ago? June. This was right before Sin City.
Yeah.
It was right before Sin City. We're getting ready. So every quarter we go to one of his cyber meetup events down in San Diego, and I was just so knee deep in prep. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love cutting things out, prepping them, making all of the kits that I love. It's my passion. It's what I love doing. But even then, there still comes a point where it's like, oh my gosh, if I see another waterproof canvas square, I am going to throw it out the window, right? So I got into this little, like, what did I call it? Funk. I got into this little funk where I was like, I don't want to cut anything out. I don't want to do anything. And we're trying to get ready, and I'm trying to finish a bunch of stuff before we go do this meetup thing, because I know once we leave this office, we're not coming back until tomorrow. And I really needed something to pull myself out of it. And so I went through and I made, I put everything down, I walked away, and I went into my big shelves, my big, like, the cube shelves with all of the fabric, and I started looking and petting my fabrics. And I decided, you know what, I don't really care what else is going on right now. I need to make something, I need to do something for me. And so I ended up pulling some fabrics, and I made, it was the Guardians of the Galaxy one. You remember that? But I have to give it to you because you were in here working with me that day, and I was so frustrated, and threads kept breaking, and I just want to complete this for myself. We ended up being, an hour late to that meetup, but you gave me the time and grace that I needed to be able to finish that, to be able to pull myself out of that funk, because man, I was so dang proud when I was finished with that. And you know, I wore it to that event, and it completely turned my whole mindset around. So being able to walk away from what you're doing and make something just for you, make something completely different that is going to change your mindset, I think is a huge part of being able to balance that work and life with hobby versus business, being able to step away from the business to really do something to enjoy the hobby side of what you love doing, to rekindle that and remind yourself why you're doing all of the things that you're doing whenever you're in that rut. And having a super understanding partner that even though you make them an hour late to their thing, understands the importance of having completed that. Thank you, Lily. I love it. Anything else you want to add before we close out?
No. What are we going to do with this monstrosity?
So, since you don't have anything else here, let me see, hold on. I just want to go over a couple of things before we close out. So we have some pretty big events coming up. So first of all, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. We're going to be doing videos like this. We're trying for every week. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to do that. Well, I'm in Orlando and he is not, but we'll figure it out. So please like, subscribe, video, share it, all of the fun things. If you have anything specific to a topic that you want to hear about, something that you want to see, please let me know. You can post that here on YouTube or drop it into the Facebook group. It's all linked here in the description. Next up we have, oh gosh, Socation Orlando is coming up, and it's going to be here before you know it. There are a ton of really great classes that are available. So far, I think there's only one that is actually sold out. Everything else has at least 2 or 3 spaces left in them. So if you haven't already, please sign up for those classes. Support our small business besties. Let me see what else. We've got our pumpkin buddies. They're back up on the website. Oh, and if you haven't noticed, I have 2 sizes of pumpkin heads here now. I found this one at, where did I go yesterday? CVS. I found the teal head at CVS. I'm gonna try and see how many other colors I can find, just because, you know, I want a rainbow of pumpkin buddy children. But I also found these little ones, and so if you haven't already gotten the pumpkin buddy pattern, and you haven't made one of these, like, they're so stinking cute. I will post in just a couple of days. I'm making mini pumpkin buddies. I already did the pattern. I just gotta sew them up and then I can share. And that's going to be a free add-on to our pumpkin buddy pattern. So it'll all download all at once on the regular pattern. But how stinking cute is that? I love it. What else do we have? We have your backpack. You made your backpack.
Took 5.5 hours.
It took him 5.5 hours, but he did all of the stitching. Look at that. So now that the day, this is going to be Haley's day pack. This is a Heather. This is out of the mind of Heather. Heather started this pattern. Heather's my So Bestie admin. Heather does Rusted Fox Handmade. If you haven't seen her site, please go check it out. Subscribe on, she does Facebook and Instagram, or send us a message on So Bestie. She sees them too. But Heather's part of our So Bestie team, and we are working on a couple of patterns together. So this one's out of the mind of Heather. I am in process of writing this one for us, but Neil made the first one according to the pattern, and we are going to be auctioning this off. I will put up photos. Oh, here's the back. I will put up photos in our Facebook group, and he will be up for auction on, well, I'll put it up tomorrow morning, and we'll leave the auction up until Monday. And all of the proceeds from this one, because it's little animal mushrooms and sweets.
There's cats and rabbits.
I think that's a fox. Yeah, there's a rabbit and a cat, and mushrooms and sweets and all of that stuff. So we're going to take all the proceeds and we're going to donate them to the Humane Society. And a super huge thank you to Robin from It's So Creative for the fabrics for this one. I'm very excited. So if you want your very own Mr. So Bestie made his first backpack, I think that's your first bag, isn't it?
Yeah, I haven't made a bag before.
You never made a bag?
I made a pillowcase in high school.
Now you make bags.
Mm-hmm. I hemmed a bunch of dresses for you. I made a
You fixed your sweater today.
Made a crap ton of face masks during COVID.
Yeah, face masks.
My sweater.
You fixed your sweater. You've done a few things. It's all right. It's all right. So we have some upcoming patterns here on this side of the table, and then reminders for our pumpkin buddy, which is up on the website, and our regular pattern will include the mini pumpkin buddy in just a couple of days. So once I get that all finished up, you'll see him around. This one is going to be a class here in Oceanside. I have to look at a calendar. I don't know when that is, but we'll get that up. I think it's next Friday.
Oh, before you go out to Orlando.
Before I go out to Orlando. It's either next Friday or the Friday I come back from Orlando. I think I gotta look at that. So Hey, Sandra. Sandra's going to be teaching at Socation Orlando. I'm so excited to see everybody. I cannot wait. I think that's it for us, though, now, right?
Sounds good. Let's go eat.
We gotta go do
I
dinners.
gotta go make dinner.
We gotta go do dinners. All right, you guys. We'll see you next week.